I stood there in the cemetery, rain mixing with my tears, when my Aunt Margaret leaned in close and whispered those words that would echo in my mind for days to come. "Don't expect a penny, Bella. Your grandmother made her decision years ago." Her smile was cold, calculated, like she'd been rehearsing that line in front of a mirror. My hands trembled as I clutched the funeral program, my grandmother's face smiling back at me from the glossy paper. Just hours earlier, I'd been the one holding Grandma Rose's hand in her final moments, and now I was being told I meant nothing. The funeral reception buzzed with distant relatives I barely recognized, all of them whispering, glancing my way with a mixture of pity and something else I couldn't quite place. But what happened in that lawyer's office just 30 minutes later would flip everything upside down in a way that still makes my heart race when I think about it. Before we go any further into this story, I'd love to know where you're rewatching from right now. Drop a comment below telling me what country and city you're in. It is amazing to see how these family stories connect with people all around the world, and I read every single comment. Now, let me take you back to where this all really began, because understanding my relationship with Grandma Rose is the only way you'll grasp just how cruel my aunt's words truly were. I grew up in a small house in Ohio with my single mother, who worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. My father had left when I was 3, and Mom never really recovered from that abandonment. Grandma Rose lived just 10 minutes away in this beautiful old Victorian mansion that had been in our family for 3 generations. While my Aunt Margaret, Mom's older sister, was off building her career in New York and only visiting twice a year with expensive gifts and empty promises, I was the one showing up every single weekend. I'd help Grandma Rose with her garden, we'd bake cookies together every Sunday, and when she got sick 5 years ago, I was the one who moved into that mansion to take care of her, not Margaret. Not her 2 sons who couldn't be bothered to call more than once a month. Me. I put my college plans on hold, turned down a scholarship, and became her full-time caregiver because that's what family does. Or at least that is what I believed family should do. Margaret would sweep in maybe 3 times a year, always with her designer handbags and her sons trailing behind in their expensive suits, and she'd make this big show of caring. She'd kiss Grandma's cheek, adjust the pillows I'd already fluffed, and say things like, "Oh, Mother, you look so thin. Is Bella feeding you properly?" Like I wasn't standing right there. She'd stay for maybe 2 hours, take a bunch of photos for her social media, and then disappear again. But Grandma Rose never complained. She'd just smile and say, "Margaret is very busy, dear. She has important work." Meanwhile, I was the one administering medications at 2 in the morning, changing sheets, reading to her when she couldn't sleep, and holding her hand through the pain. The jealousy from Margaret was always there, simmering beneath the surface. I remember one Christmas when Grandma gave me her grandmother's pearl necklace, the one that had been passed down through 4 generations. Margaret's face went white, then red, and she didn't speak to me for the rest of the visit. Her sons, Derek and Patrick, were always polite but distant, the kind of family members who show up because they were supposed to, not because they want to. They'd stand in corners during visits, checking their phones, counting the minutes until they could leave. My own cousins, and I barely knew them. But it was Margaret's husband, Uncle Tom, who sometimes pulled me aside and would say quietly, "You're doing a good thing here, Bella. Don't let anyone tell you different." Those small moments of validation kept me going during the hardest nights. When Grandma Rose's health took a turn for the worse last month, I called everyone. I sent texts, left voicemails, sent emails. "She doesn't have much time left," I told them. "If you want to say goodbye, you need to come now." Margaret showed up exactly once during those final 2 weeks, stayed for an hour, and spent most of that time on a business call in the hallway. Derek and Patrick sent flowers with a card that read, "Thinking of you, Grandma," like she was recovering from a cold, not dying. The night Grandma passed, it was just me and Mom in that room. I held one hand, Mom held the other, and Grandma Rose looked at me with those cloudy blue eyes and whispered, "You've been my angel, Bella. Don't you ever forget that." Those were her last words to me, and I've replayed them 1,000 times since. The funeral was held on a gray Tuesday morning at the old church downtown, where Grandma had attended services for 60 years. The place was packed, which surprised me. Apparently, Grandma Rose had touched more lives than I realized through her charity work and community involvement over the decades. But the family section told a different story. Margaret sat in the front row dressed in an elegant black dress that probably cost more than my car, her face a perfect mask of grief. Derek and Patrick flanked her like bodyguards, their expressions unreadable behind expensive sunglasses even though we were indoors. Mom sat beside me, squeezing my hand so tight it hurt, and I could feel the tension radiating from her body. Throughout the service, I caught Margaret glancing back at me with this look I couldn't quite decipher. It wasn't a sadness. It was something sharper, more calculating. During the eulogy, when the pastor talked about Grandma Rose's devotion to family and how she'd always put others first, I saw Margaret dab at dry eyes with a tissue. The performance was almost convincing. After the service, as we filed out to the cemetery, people kept stopping me, telling me how much Grandma had talked about me, how proud she'd been. "She showed me pictures of you two in the garden just last month," one elderly woman said. "Said you were the light of her life." Each comment felt like a small knife in my heart because Grandma was gone, but also like a validation of those 5 years I'd given up. The burial was worse. Standing there watching them lower that casket into the ground, I felt like I was losing the one person who'd truly seen me, truly valued me. The rain started right as the pastor said the final prayer, and people began hurrying toward their cars. That is when it happened. Margaret appeared at my elbow like a shadow, her umbrella blocking out what little light filtered through the clouds. She leaned in close, her perfume overwhelming, and said those words that felt like a slap. "Don't expect a penny, Bella. Your grandmother made her decision years ago. The estate goes to those who deserve it, not those who were simply convenient." Before I could respond, before I could even process what she'd just said, she walked away, her heels clicking on the wet pavement. Mom grabbed my arm. "What did she just say to you?" Her voice was shaking with anger. I couldn't speak. I just stood there in the rain, watching Margaret climb into her expensive car, watching her sons follow like obedient soldiers. "She said I shouldn't expect anything from the estate," I finally managed to say. Mom's face went pale. "That witch. After everything you did, after everything you sacrificed." Other relatives were starting to stare, sensing drama. I could see the whispers starting, the sideways glances. Cousin Linda, who I hadn't seen in 10 years, actually had the audacity to smirk at me. The vultures were already circling, and apparently I was the carcass. The reception was held at the mansion, Grandma's mansion, and walking through those doors felt surreal. This house had been my home for 5 years. Every corner held a memory, but now it felt like I was trespassing. Margaret had apparently taken charge of everything, directing caterers, greeting guests, playing the role of devoted daughter and grieving family matriarch. She'd even rearranged furniture and taken down some of the photos I'd put up of Grandma and me together. Mom noticed immediately. "She's erasing you," she whispered. "She's already acting like this place is hers." I tried to stay in the background, but people kept seeking me out, asking how I was holding up, telling me more stories about Grandma. Each conversation felt like a small rebellion against Margaret's narrative. Then I overheard Derek talking to Patrick in the hallway. "Mom says we should start thinking about selling this place soon. Real estate market's hot right now. Could probably get 2 million, maybe more." My stomach dropped. They were already dividing up assets, already planning the sale of the home where I spent the last 5 years of my life, where every floorboard creaked with memories. "What about Bella?" Patrick asked, and I held my breath. Derek laughed, actually laughed. "What about her? She got free room and board for 5 years, that's payment enough." I retreated to the kitchen, the one place that had always felt safe, where Grandma and I had spent countless hours cooking together. Mom found me there, sitting at the old wooden table trying not to cry. "We need to talk to the lawyer," she said firmly. "This isn't right. I don't care what Mother will says. You deserve something after everything you did." But I wasn't so sure. Maybe Margaret was right. Maybe I had just been convenient. Maybe all those years meant nothing in the end because I hadn't been the successful one, the important one, the one with money and status. That is when Mr. Harrison appeared in the doorway. He was Grandma's lawyer, had been for 30 years, a distinguished man in his 70s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Bella," he said quietly, "could I speak with you for a moment? Privately?" My heart started racing. This was it. This was where I'd be officially told I was getting nothing, that Margaret had convinced Grandma to leave everything to her. Mom started to follow, but Mr. Harrison held up a hand. Just Bella, please. For now. We walked through the crowded house to Grandma's study, a room I'd cleaned and organized 1,000 times, but suddenly felt foreign. But before we could enter the study, Margaret intercepted us in the hallway. Whatever you need to discuss with Bella can be discussed with all of us, Mr. Harrison. We were family, after all. Her voice was saccharine sweet, but her eyes were hard as diamonds. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses. Actually, Mrs. Crawford, I have specific instructions from Mrs. Rose Thompson regarding the reading of her will. If you'd like to gather the immediate family, we can proceed now. Margaret's smile faltered for just a second before snapping back into place. Of course, let me get my sons. Within minutes, we were all assembled in the study. Margaret sat in Grandma's chair behind the big mahogany desk like she already owned the place. Derek and Patrick stood behind her, arms crossed. Mom and I took the small sofa by the window, the same sofa where Grandma and I used to read together on Sunday afternoons. Uncle Tom stood off to the side, looking uncomfortable. Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick document, the official last will and testament of Rose Marie Thompson. Before I begin, he said, looking directly at me with an expression I couldn't read, I want you all to know that Mrs. Thompson was of completely sound mind when she made these arrangements. She updated her will 6 months ago, and I have all the necessary documentation to prove her mental capacity and intent. 6 months ago. That was right after Margaret's last visit, the one where she'd barely stayed an hour and spent most of it complaining about having to fly commercial. Margaret leaned forward. Let's not drag this out, Mr. Harrison. Mother and I discussed her wishes many times. I know she wanted to ensure the family estate remained intact and in capable hands. The presumption in her voice made my skin crawl. Mr. Harrison didn't respond to her, just began reading in his measured, professional tone. I, Rose Marie Thompson, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. The legal language washed over me as he went through the preliminary sections, the revocation of previous wills, the appointment of executor. Then he got to the bequests. To my daughter, Margaret Ann Crawford, I leave the sum of $50,000 and my mother's china collection. Margaret's face went blank. $50,000. That was it. Out of an estate worth millions, she was getting $50,000 and some plates. To my grandsons, Derek and Patrick Crawford, I leave $25,000 each to be used for charitable donations in my name. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Margaret's face had gone from pale to red, a vein pulsing in her temple. There must be some mistake, she said, her voice tight and controlled. Mother wouldn't he? We discussed this, she promised. Mr. Harrison held up a hand. Please let me finish. He cleared his throat and continued. To my daughter, Janet Marie Thompson, Bella's mother, I leave $100,000 and my collection of first edition books, knowing how much she always loved to read. Mom gasped beside me, her hand flying to her mouth. Tears started streaming down her face. But Mr. Harrison wasn't done. He looked directly at me now, and something in his expression softened. And to my granddaughter, Isabella Rose Thompson, who has been my companion, my caregiver, and my greatest joy in my final years, I leave the remainder of my estate. This includes the family mansion and all its contents, my investment portfolio, my savings accounts, and all other assets not specifically bequeathed above. Bella gave up her youth to care for me when I needed it most. She asked for nothing and gave everything. She is the granddaughter every woman hopes to have, and I could not be more proud of the woman she has become. The words hit me like a physical force. I couldn't breathe, couldn't process, the mansion, the investments, everything. Margaret shot to her feet so fast her chair fell backward with a crash. This is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. That will is invalid. My mother was clearly not in her right mind. Bella manipulated her, poisoned her against her own daughter. Her voice had gone shrill, all pretense of grief and dignity evaporating. Derek and Patrick looked stunned, frozen in place. Uncle Tom's eyes were wide, darting between his wife and me. Mr. Harrison's voice cut through Margaret's hysteria like a blade. Mrs. Crawford, I assure you this will is completely valid and legally binding. Your mother had 2 independent psychiatric evaluations confirming her mental competency at the time of signing. She also left something else for you." He pulled out an envelope. "She asked me to give you this letter, to be read after the will. She wanted you to understand her reasoning." Margaret snatched the letter from his hands, her fingers trembling. She tore it open and began reading, her eyes scanning the page rapidly. With each line, her face grew paler. "Would you like me to read it aloud?" Mr. Harrison asked quietly. "No." Margaret's voice cracked, but Mr. Harrison pulled out another copy. "Mrs. Thompson gave me permission to share this with everyone present if necessary. She wanted no confusion about her intentions." He began reading in that same calm voice. "Margaret, my dear daughter, if you are reading this, then you already know my decision, and I imagine you are angry. You have every right to your feelings, but please understand this was not done to hurt you. Throughout your life, you have been blessed with intelligence, ambition, and success. You built a wonderful career and a life you're proud of. I am proud of you too. But when I needed you most, you were not there. I don't say this to shame you. You had your own life, your own priorities, and I understand that." Margaret's hands were shaking so badly the letter rattled. Mr. Harrison continued. "Bella, on the other hand, put her entire life on hold for me. She sacrificed her education, her career opportunities, her social life, everything, to be my caregiver. She did this not for money or inheritance, but out of pure love. She changed my bedpans, cleaned my wounds, held my hand through the darkest nights, and never once complained. She made me laugh when I wanted to cry. She gave me dignity when I felt I had none left. That kind of devotion, that kind of selfless love, cannot be measured in dollars, but I am trying to honor it the only way I know how. The mansion was never just a house, Margaret. It was a home because of the love inside it, and Bella filled it with more love in 5 years than I'd felt in decades." The letter went on, but Margaret crumpled it in her fist, her whole body shaking. "She manipulated you," she screamed at me. "You wormed your way in. You made her dependent on you. You turned her against her own family." I finally found my voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "I never asked for any of this. I took care of her because I loved her, because she was my grandmother, because it was the right thing to do." Mom's arm went around my shoulders, pulling me close. Margaret pointed a shaking finger at me. "We will contest this will. We will fight this in court. You will not get away with this." Mr. Harrison closed his briefcase with a decisive click. "You are welcome to try, Mrs. Crawford, but I should inform you that your mother anticipated this reaction. She left detailed documentation of her wishes, video recordings of her intentions, and testimony from multiple witnesses, including her doctors, her nurses, and several family friends. She also included a clause stating that anyone who contests this will forfeit their bequest entirely. If you proceed with legal action, you will lose the $50,000 as well." Margaret's face went from red to purple. For a moment, I thought she might physically attack me. Derek finally moved, putting a hand on his mother's arm. "Mom, let's go. Let's just go." They left in a storm of anger and slammed doors. I could hear Margaret's voice echoing through the mansion as they made their exit, cursing, crying, making threats. Other relatives who'd been lingering quickly made their excuses and left too, sensing the drama had gotten too intense. Within 20 minutes, the house was empty except for me, Mom, Uncle Tom, and Mr. Harrison. Uncle Tom approached me cautiously. "Bella, I just want you to know that I think Rose made the right choice. Margaret will calm down eventually. She's just shocked right now." He gave my shoulder an awkward pat and left quietly. Mr. Harrison handed me a large manila envelope. "These are the keys to the house, the deed, and all the relevant paperwork. Your grandmother also left you a personal letter, separate from the will. She asked me to give it to you privately." He smiled gently. "She loved you very much, Bella. That was evident every time she talked about you. You gave her a beautiful final chapter to her life, and she wanted to make sure you understood how much that meant to her." After he left, Mom and I sat in that study for a long time, neither of us quite believing what had just happened. Later that night, after Mom had gone home and I was alone in the mansion that was now legally mine, I opened Grandma's personal letter. Her handwriting was shaky but unmistakable. "My dearest Bella," it began. "If you were reading this, then I am gone and you've just been through quite an ordeal. I am sorry I couldn't spare you Margaret's reaction, but I knew it was coming and there was no way to prevent it. I want you to know that every decision I made was done with love and careful thought. You gave me 5 years of your life when you should have been building your own future. You put your dreams on hold for an old woman's comfort. That kind of sacrifice deserves to be honored." The letter continued for 3 pages, sharing memories, expressing gratitude, and offering advice for the future. The last paragraph made me cry so hard I could barely read it. "Don't it let guilt or doubt make you question whether you deserve this. You do. You earned every single thing I am leaving you, not through manipulation or scheming, but through genuine love and care. Live in this house. Fill it with your own memories. Maybe someday you'll fill it with children who will climb the same trees and play in the same garden where we spent so many happy hours. And when people ask you how you came to own such a beautiful home, tell them the truth. Tell them it was a gift from a grandmother who loved you more than words could express. Be happy, my darling girl. That's all I ever wanted for you." The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork, attorneys, and awkward encounters with relatives who suddenly wanted to reconnect. Margaret did hire a lawyer and made noises about contesting the will, but it quickly became clear she had no case. The documentation was ironclad, and as Mr. Harrison had predicted, once she realized she'd lose her $50,000 if she proceeded, she backed down. We haven't spoken since the funeral. Derek and Patrick sent a brief email apologizing for their mother's behavior and congratulating me on the inheritance, but I haven't seen them either. Some family ties once broken can be easily repaired. Mom helped me sort through decades of accumulated possessions in the mansion, deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to preserve. We found boxes of old photos, letters, treasures from Grandma's long life. In one box, I found a journal from the last year of Grandma's life. Flipping through it, I found entries that made me cry all over again. Bella helped me in the garden today. She's so patient with my slow pace. I'm so blessed. Another entry read, "Margaret called today, but she was in a hurry as always. Sometimes I wonder if she knows how much her absence hurts." And near the end, just a month before she died, she'd written, "I updated my will today. I know it will cause problems, but I have to honor what is right. Bella deserves everything. She gave me everything. I'm still living in the mansion, and I've decided to go back to school. At 28, I'm finally pursuing that college degree I postponed, studying social work because those 5 years taught me something important about caring for others. The investment portfolio Grandma left me is substantial enough that I don't have to worry about money while I'm studying. I've also started volunteering with an organization that supports family caregivers because I know how isolating and exhausting that role can be. Grandma's legacy isn't just in the money or the house. It's in the lessons she taught me about love, sacrifice, and what truly matters in life. Looking back on that funeral, on Margaret's cruel words and her absolute certainty that she deserved everything, I realized something important. She never understood what real wealth was. She measured everything in money and status and success, but she missed the wealth that comes from genuine human connection, from being present for someone who needs you, from putting love before ambition. The mansion isn't just a house worth $2 million. It's 5 years of memories, of laughter and tears, of ordinary moments that became extraordinary because we shared them. That is what Grandma was really giving me, not just property and investments, but validation that those years mattered, that I mattered. If you've watched this far, thank you for letting me share my story. I hope it reminds you that doing the right thing, even when it is hard, even when no one seems to notice or appreciate it, matters. And if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or dismissed by people who thought they were better than you, know that the universe has a way of balancing the scales. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life family drama, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you don't miss future videos. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced family conflict over inheritance or felt undervalued by relatives? Share your story below and let's us support each other through these difficult experiences. Remember, family isn't just about blood, it's about who shows up when it matters most.